Hey guys, I'm learning TFT and I'm sharing my learnings with you so you can learn better and I can learn more effectively as well. In this video, I'm going to go through a hot new comp, Bastion Morgana Reroll, that is spreading like wildfire through top elo. I'm going to go through the conditions to play it, the board, augments, how to itemize, and go through a VoD review of Wasian who is currently rank 1 in NA, to get a better understanding of how to play this line, because there is a lot of nuance in it. I do want to mention that there's been a lot of discussion about this comp recently. This Reddit post is what I believe really started it. TFT Academy added it recently. There's been a lot of people. Kai made a video on it. Solus talked about it. Kai talked about positioning, where you want to pop Poppy to hit the corner, and Kai put together some good conversation on that as well. Robin songs. And then if you look at Wasian, he's been doing really well with it. Yesterday climbed 154 LP with a 2.8 AVP. Robin hasn't been doing as well with it. I think he's still trying to figure out how to angle it. Got a second and an eighth. Soju got a first with it in a game that I was playing with him. And then Kai Wang got first. These are all, I think Soju, Kai Wang are top 5. Wasian's top 5. Robin's like top 8 or something. And so if we look over here, Replay got first with it. A bunch of players are trying it out, but it looks like Wasian has probably the most experience playing it, so I wanted to VoD review one of his games to like get a better understanding of the nuance of it. And I was also trying to figure out yesterday like how meme this is, but then I played 2 games back to back where Setsuko played this from a tactician's what is this called? Cape augment in one of my games, and he had a Morgana 2 like at 2-1 and then high rolled the Bastion emblem, so it kind of worked out for him. But I saw this, and then Soju played it in the next game and got first, so I was like, okay, I need to do a deep dive into this, because it's one thing for it to be a Reddit meme, and then another thing for a bunch of top 10 players to be playing it. One thing I noticed is that Bramble is very good, because if we look at Team Builder, Poppy's Buckler Toss does scales with armor and AP. And she already gets a bunch of armor from Bastion, especially in the first 10 seconds of combat. So Bramble is especially good on her, which is why Setsuko picked the Thorn-plated armor here. And this comp can still lose. It's very positioning dependent. Like in this battle, I actually beat Setsuko because he let his Poppy and his Morgana be stunned. Usually you actually want to be opposite side with your carries, because this Poppy is going to start bucklering my Vex here. And so if you're playing against this Poppy, you really want to have healing. You can see my Vex got bucklered. And if his Poppy had a Vow on it, which is one of the best items for Poppy, it could have taken down my Vex a lot earlier. But it's only because I have Gunblade and Spirit Link that my Vex didn't die like right away. So in this situation, the positioning worked out in my favor, because I had Sejuani stunning the Poppy and the Morgana, and I had Varus stunning the Poppy, which really slowed down the Buckler casts from hitting my Vex. Yeah, so but he did, I believe he did eventually hit this Elise 3 as well. So that fight worked out for me, but Setsuko took out a pretty capped, let's see, what was it? Okay, this board I lost to. It was a investment strategy Spirit Link Massive Mundo. So he beat this pretty easily. And then Soju. This is a game that this is a pretty high capped Divinicore Z game for this guy. And then Soju. I lost to that, but I didn't capture. So anyway, this Divinicore Z player eventually found a Garen 2 and moved this emblem over, got the Divinicore mod on Z. And so it was a pretty capped board, but Soju still beat him. Let me see where Soju's board is. I think I had part of it here, yeah. So this was Soju's board. He played it with Shop Glitch. Spirit Link is quite good because you have so many bastions with tons of resistances. So getting healing on it can be quite good. And then he was using the Renekton to eat the Morgana, which was interesting. I'm not sure if that was just like, yeah, that's interesting. Mana items on Poppy are very good. And I think people are still trying to figure out positioning for this. I suspect that Wasian has figured out the best positioning because Wasian in the early game was solo frontlining the Poppy a lot, and usually you want to like, let's say the enemy carry is like another Morgana and they have a Poppy here. Your positioning for Poppy, and this was in the, like here, right? And then Kai talked about this too, but you have same positioning as Zed because she hits with her buckler and farthest enemy within 4 hexes, which would be right here. And so a lot of times, if you solo frontline, especially if you have Stoneplate, like Wasian played around Stoneplate a bunch, or a bunch of resistances like Bramble, like you can hit pretty quickly. So you just want to be same side, and then Morgana casts eventually hits the corner too. So we'll see in some of the Wasian VoD review that the corner carry can die pretty quickly as a result of the positioning. Plus you have Galio, which sends a whirlwind, stuns the enemy within 3 hexes. So if he walks up here, he can actually stun this backline. And if you have Sejuani here, also stuns here. Like, it's just damage, stun, stun, damage. So if you're, so much of this is dependent on positioning. And when I was watching Setsuko and Soju play this, they weren't even, I don't think they were really optimizing that positioning that well. So Wasian, I believe, was, when I was watching some of his VoDs, was optimizing the position better. And so when you look at the stats on this comp, like it's, where is it? It just popped up here, 4.38 with a pick rate of 0.1. If we sort by date, you can see that the average placement is going down, the pick rate's going up. But I suspect the AVP should improve as people figure out how to position better. It seems very positioning dependent, like that one fight against Setsuko that I was showing you where he put the Poppy all the way on the side, which is surprising to me. Yeah, which one? Yeah, this one. Like, I guess he doesn't want, if he had his Galio on the very left, he could have stunned here. This Sejuani over here, although it's a 1-star Sejuani, so it might die. Poppy does want to pop this, but I had too much healing. So if you're playing against this comp, Gunblade in your backline is probably your best friend. Though if the Poppy has Vow, like, I think it's still situational depending on how much damage your carry has, because the Poppy can still take you out. So if you're playing against this comp and you think this is your main competition, getting extra healing augment is quite good. All right, so let's talk about first, just like dive into the board itself. This is at level 8. Usually you want to play 4 Bastion, 4 Dynamo. If you have a Dynamo emblem, then you can put it on Sejuani, so it's usually just 4/4. You can notice a pattern at level 8. Right now there's a lot of 4 and 4, like 4 Vanguard, 4 Marksman, there's 4 Vanguard, 4 Dynamo, 4 Bastion here, 4 Dynamo, right? It's just a lot of balance to your front and back line. And the conditions for this is you really want a lot of tiers because you have blue buff here. You ideally want to have static shiv because you're doing a lot of damage to backline, both with Morgana and Poppy. And if you just have Spark, that's not as great of a spreader of the shiv. So usually backline's not going to have as much resistances, so it's maybe not as important. The main way that you win this fight is to take out their backliner early, which is why I was surprised when, I forget who it was, either Soju or Setsuko took out the Zed player. And because you would think that like melee Zed would be the way to beat this comp. And then on one of those games, I was playing this one. I was playing Rengar Reroll. And Soju, I think Soju beat me with this as well. So you would think that like Zed or Rengar melee, like that can heal back up Drain Tank, would be the counter to this, but that didn't seem to be the case in the games that I was playing. Yeah, just lots of tiers, or Pandora's is really good because you want so many tiers. You want the blue buff, the stack shiv, and Vow tier items on Poppy. Basically similar itemization as far as tier items to Sejuani. And so you can never have too many tiers, because even if you have Vow here, you probably want Vow on Sejuani as well. Because the Vow on Poppy will let her cast earlier and take out the enemy carry earlier in the fight. A key big boost is Bastion emblem. If you can get that, you can take a look here. It's a 3.76 from a 4.4 here. Huge boost. And the key thing is at level 9, usually you're playing 6 Bastion, 3 Dynamo. But if you have the Dynamo emblem, then you can play 6 Bastion, 4 Dynamo, which has a huge spike on your AVP. So you can see here going from 3 Dynamo to 4 Dynamo is 3.8 to 3.3 AVP, from a 14% to 19% win rate. And same thing with big spike on from 4 to 6 Bastion. So a big part for you to be successful with this comp is getting to level 9. So you do need to hit your Poppy and your Morgana ahead of tempo. Jhin can replace Elise here at level 9 if you have a frontline Exotech item, especially if you have a Jax 3. That would be quite strong. Otherwise, if you don't have a good frontline Exo and you don't have Jax 3 or Sejuani 2, then you can just play Elise. Also, Elise is usually a better item holder in the mid game for Aurora. So usually you want, and because you're going to build static shiv usually, Elise is a better spreader of it, but also a better item holder for Aurora. So Jhin is kind of really flexible depending on what your Exo is. This comp is super item hungry, especially with the system change for this patch, where you get 1 to 1.5, I believe, less items per game. You can see here that you want to fully itemize Morgana, Poppy, you want Shred on and anti-heal on Elise. Ideally, you could itemize Sejuani with like another Vow. And then late game, you want to itemize Renekton as your cap out, and then get fully itemized Aura. So that's a lot of items, which is why this is a particularly good comp on item encounters. It can use artifacts very well. So Lighting Jewel, Zhonya's. Zhonya can also be gotten from the Memory Bank augment. Light Shield Crest is especially good with 6 Bastion. Anima to be able to heal. So lots of artifacts. So on the artifact encounter, on the item anvils is especially good because you need so many tiers and just want more items. So if you see an item encounter, definitely lean towards this if you have the right spot. All right, so augments, blue market, blue battery is good. Tactics Tools didn't have that available to put on this tier list. I went through a bunch of games just to like kind of aggregate what seemed good, and this is how I came up with it. But blue battery, if you can get multiple blue buffs, then you can put one on Morgana, one on Elise. It's quite good. Synergizes well with 4 Dynamo because you get a ton of mana, and because blue buff lowers the mana threshold, you just get way more casts. So Pandora's items, to get a ton of tiers, get your Abyss items. By the way, the core items are blue buff Gunblade. Death Cap can be replaced. Like I saw Wasian play it with Morello. Someone play, I think Soju played it with GS, I believe. You can play it with Archangel. So this one's more flex, though Death Cap looks the best in the stats because it gives you AP, which he needs, and damage amp, which she also needs. So it fills in the gap of what she's missing really well. So Pandora's bench, because you're rolling for Morgana, Poppy, Jax, 3 1 costs, and 1 for all for that reason. I believe Setsuko took that. So, and it skills HP, which is good because you have a bunch of Bastions that have a bunch of MR, armor magic resist. Rolling for days just gives you more gold. Chop Glitch, Starry Night all give you gold. Starry Night's probably the best out of these. A magic roll, if we look at the loot table, this 3 duplicators is quite good. 250 HP across your board is quite good. 4 components, we talked about how we need items, is quite good. And the frying pan to get you the Bastion emblem with the vest is good. So if you add these up, and this is just gold, it's like not great, but if you happen to hit like a Galio 2, an Alawi 2, Shyvana 2, like that could be decent as well. But these 4 here is what, 57%, 61, 62% of these scenarios are actually quite good for you. So a magic roll like loot table is quite solid for this comp. Pandora's items, again, big grab bag. We talked about we need a lot of items. Cooking pot, because if you can get a pan going, start feeding the Poppy to get more HP. It can start really scaling. Thorn-plated armor can help you win streak and gives that Poppy extra armor so that her buckler deals more damage. Portable Forge, we talked about lots of artifacts that are quite good. Memory Bank, because you have so much frontline, let's see, we can read Memory Bank. After they spend 7,000 mana, gain a Zhonya's Paradox and an Aurora. So you get that Aurora. The Zhonya's is extremely good to play this scaled out fight. And Dynamos gain damage amp. And because you are playing in your early game, like, I guess I didn't go through the early board, but the early board is just very basic, right? 4 Bastion, Morgana. You could, if you could find a Galio, you can put in the Galio. But because you have 4 Bastion in your early game, you're gonna have a lot of time for your Dynamos to cast. Throw in a Jhin here, or an Elise at level 6. Yeah, you're gonna be able to proc this pretty quickly. So it's quite good for this comp. Investment strategy, especially if you're on an econ encounter, you get your Bastions a bunch of HP. Very strong combat augment. Bulky buddies for the same reason. No scout, no pivot also similarly gives you HP and gives your Morgana AP. And your Poppy actually scales the buckler with AP as well. Replication with a tier is extremely strong. Or if you can get a vest, you get a Bramble for your Poppy. Both quite good. Rods also good because you need ideally 3 rods. 1 for Gunblade and 2 for Deathcap. So lots of outs. Spirit Link getting massive healing across 6 Bastion, super strong. Prismatic Ticket, like, not as ideal. I actually might move that down over here. Like, for 1 cost reroll, ideally you are able to hit ahead of tempo and have combat augments. Whereas if you're burning a prismatic, like, you really need to hit this board ahead of tempo and full streak for prismatic ticket to really pay off. So I'd actually lower that. Living Forge, lots of artifacts again, just to revisit. Blighting Jewel, Zonia, Light Shield, Anima, all quite good. I didn't include here, but Horizon Focus on Sejuani, also solid. Expected unexpectedness, if we look at that loop table, this is one thing that I've been working with Marcel on more, is like for this and Call to Chaos, like really looking at loot tables and understanding what your outs are for any comp to see if it is a good fit. But if you get Sejuani early, that's really good. Gold is always solid for reroll, since you want to be able to hit ahead of tempo. Getting more items is good. Masterwork upgrade with the Radiant, Blue Buff, Gunblade, Stoneplate are all very good. And you can solo frontline a Radiant Stoneplate Poppy. And then in stage 3, if you can get duplicators, that can help you finish off your reroll. If you get an artifact, it can be quite good. Components, quite good. Emblem is more questionable. It's like higher variance, but if you get Bastion Emblem, Dynamo Emblem, let's see, what other outs do we have as far as emblems go? Exotech. I mean, those are the main ones, so there aren't too many, like Divinicore as well. Because late game, I mean, Morgana already has Divinicore, and gives you, like, I think it's 3% Omnivamp, which is actually decent for both Morgana and Poppy. So there's a decent number of outs for the emblems. And then late game, 5 cost, if you can hit a Renekton, can be quite good. Support Anvil, there's needlessly big gem because you're going to be playing 6 Bastion. The damage amp is a key dimension that Morgana is missing. Virtue of the Martyr, tons of healing for your 6 Bastion, really good. And then Moonstone, similarly, because you have so many resistances, shielding benefits from that as well. So expected unexpectedness, like just at all phases of the game, can be quite good. I forgot 4 cost can also give you a Misfortune for Dynamo. And then more components, items, duplicator, especially if you can get Renekton and a duplicator, then you're really close to hitting your Renekton too. So the loot table for expected unexpectedness is quite good for this comp. Buried treasures, we talked about why we need a lot of items. Investment strat, similar to this. Really want to play it on a high resource portal, ideally, like Scuttle Puddle, Gold Sub, etc. Bastion Crown gives you a Steadfast, I believe. Which, yeah, is also quite good for Poppy. It gives her a vest and gives her damage reduction. Like, usually you don't want to build more resistances onto Bastions because they already have a ton. Poppy is slightly different because she scales her buckler damage with armor. So best built armor, like kind of specific items are good for her. So Steadfast Heart, Stoneplate, Bramble. Blazing Soul, because you are a scaling comp and your team's going to last a while, can be quite good. Bulky Buddies, lots of HP for scaling. Misconnections, you have a bunch of 1 costs that you try in 3-star. Preparation for early game reroll. One for all, scaling HP and damage amp. Bastion Crest, Ascension, get that Morgana damage amp. Your team's going to usually survive a long time. Uplink to gain more mana, though I'm not sure how good this is because your Dynamos already get a ton of mana. but it does give your frontline a bunch of HP. So if you took buried treasures, for example, and then go into uplink, that can be quite good because it just gives your frontline more HP as well. And your Poppy can restore more mana to use her buckler more often. Go for dummies, especially in the early game. If you have a bunch of 2-star bastions, can generate you a lot of gold to let you hit ahead of tempo, push levels, get to level 9, get your 6 bastion board in, hit your Renekton 2, can be quite strong. Epitaph, the max health shield, very good. Piercing Lotus can let your Poppy crit and your Morgana crit. Pyromaniac, you need items, so usually item augments are going to be quite good. And then most of these are similar, except for Greater Moonlight. Not sure how good Greater Moonlight is, but I imagine in this case you can take out your Jax and basically have either a Poppy 4 or a Morgana 4 in any fight, which seems quite solid. But I don't know. I think someone needs to experiment for this. If you happen to try it, let me know how it goes. All right, so that's kind of the breakdown overview of my research process. Now we'll go into a VOD review of Wasian, where he dives into this comp. So this is a gold encounter where you kind of decide whether you want to split or not. I'm going to kind of jump through a little bit quicker. Makes 10 there. And you can see he doesn't have any Poppies and Morganas at this point, so it's but he does get them from the drop and a tier and a sword here. So normally you would think that this is Brand or Vexotech, but now that we have this option available, let's see how he approaches it. And we're on a gold encounter. He does have investment strategy as an option here, so I would probably roll left and middle. Kind of want to hear what he's saying, actually.
Morgana game.
All right, so he has... Actually, I did not include BRB on this augment list. Let me first add that here. So he actually does end up taking BRB and over investment strategy, which again tells you how item hungry this comp is. You know, we talked about how this is super item hungry, right? And usually you would think that 6 Bastion with healing is quite good. Or not healing, but investment strategy. But he values this
BRB.
way more.
BRB plus gold, and I already sold my bench for investment. Really investment can't actually be that good.
And then he's going to try Loose Streak.
Oh wait, I just realized I can't see my shops now.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big deal. I'm pretty sure this guy's Gorilla.
The downside is that with 1-cost reroll, you do want to see your shops early game.
Okay, maybe
so,
it's not playing Morgana. I mean, I'm still excited for Blue.
And he's still trying to decide whether it's worth playing this. So I'm not completely sold that BRB is that great, but the extra items are really good. Alright, put him back on mute. So off carousel here, he intentionally lost streak because tiers are going to be at a premium. Tiers in general, like people are still playing Vexotech, people are still playing Brand. So lose streaking early usually makes sense. Because if you're going to win streak with this, it's going to be really hard to come by your blue buff unless you have something like Pandora's, or you took Replication into tier, or you have like Item Anvil start. So he's looking for tier here. If not tier, then probably Rod for Gunblade. You can see Panch was also trying to go for tier. This is on his Smurf account, by the way, but he's at, what, 557 LP? And on a 3 loss here, We'll see if he decides to pop Ambo yet. But most likely just full loss streak in stage 2 so that he can get more econ to be able to do a big roll down on 3-1. And we'll see if he hyper rolls to 32-ish, or whether he slow rolls above 50 at 3-1. Probably does not want to make this so that he can lose on purpose. Someone else had a Poppy 2 there. And so you can even play like Cypher in the early game if you're loss streaking like this to get a little bit more resources. Whether that's get more gold, get more items. All right, so here, Archangel can be quite solid. Red buff, Warmog. If he wants to start winning, he probably wants more of a frontline because Morgana can deal a ton of damage, but she needs frontline to last because her spell is a dot effect that deals 400, 600, 1,000 magic damage over 16 seconds. So if you want to be able to have Morgana deal damage, having a strong frontline makes sense, which is why he picks Warmog there. And then Bramble can be quite good. Similar reason, so you can get Warmog, Bramble, Declaw here. And we talked about why Bramble is good. I assume he's going to roll to at least 50. I'm surprised he's not rolling more here. Okay. I guess he doesn't mind losing this fight to get a little bit more gold. And he is going to roll under 50. See how deep he rolls here. Rolling to 32. Okay. So this is like a strategy where when you roll to 32, you are able to take advantage of the shop odds at 50, but not go too low. And at 32, next round, you're going to get 8 interest, get back to 40. And the following round, you should be able to get back to 50 from streak plus interest. So it kind of optimizes, and you're not really rolling for 2 costs as much. So really hyper focusing on the 1 costs makes sense. Whereas like in previous 1 cost rerolls that you also wanted some 2 costs, it could make sense to like slow roll above 50. All right, so health is wealth and team building. Health is wealth with the Omnivamp, since he doesn't have Omnivamp on the Morgana yet, and the Poppy actually deals a good amount of damage, so we'll see how much Omnivamp the Poppy gets. And we can see here too that he's solo frontlining the Poppy, and we'll keep an eye on the damage output. And Health is Wealth also gives him more gold, which he's lacking since he picked item augment first. It is an item encounter, but you can see here that 2 shots will kill this LeBlanc, but Morgana actually finishes off the fight. So here, let's start over. This is going to be the pattern of how this comp works. Right here, this first shot, 1 shot, right? And then Morgana will keep spreading her curse and then hit here. Morgana just hit the LeBlanc and then killed it, and then Poppy's going to pop this, and then Morgana finishes off this, and then Poppy will pop the next one, right? So this is like a teamwork between Poppy and Morgana. That's how this comp really operates, is killing off the backline and not really caring about the front line. And it's interesting that he continued to roll here. Like, what's he rolling for? I guess he's trying to see if he can... If he hits like 1 or 2 more Morganas or Poppies, he is on streak. This is a concept that Marcel has really pushed in our coaching sessions. If you're on streak, preserving streak gives you 2 gold. 1 for winning and 1 for streak. If you could guarantee that you got a Poppy 3 or a Morgana 3 and you had high confidence by scouting your opponents that you can win this fight, then, and it could make fight diff, then it could be... It's actually break even to go to 30 gold here. And actually probably worth more than that, because then the following round you can keep preserving streak as well. But that relies on you scouting more of the lobby to see what the likelihood that you could full streak stage 3 is. So I suspect that's why he rolls under 40 here. And then he also had the Elise 2 out. He could get Jin 2. This is also a concept that when I was VOD reviewing Dish Soap from his Worlds run last set, where he won Worlds, he would regularly actually give himself the opportunity to high roll and roll to around 40 in situations where he's doing reroll, so that if he hits 1 or 2 Morganas, then he could dig deeper. But then if he misses, then he can just stop and you could get back to 50 in a round anyway. So you're only losing 1 gold of interest for the upside to give yourself a high roll opportunity. All right, playing against Cypher. And then off of Carousel here, he's missing Rod for Gunblade. With the glove, he can make like JG, Guardbreaker. All right, so we want probably Rod with the Morgana here. Rod with Tear would be ideal, but I think the Morgana is probably more valuable. Tear, as we talked about, is extremely valuable. You can make Shiv, you can make Vow with it. With Open Glove, double Rod would have been best. Yeah, let's see if he... Yeah, I assume he takes the Morgana over the Rod Tear. Yeah. Still rolling to 40. Because he got that Morgana off Carousel, he's only 2 away. So again, giving himself the opportunity high roll here. Very close now to hitting both of these, and does dig deeper. Still scout. So you can see here, he's scouting to see if he can win. Okay, so he hit Poppy 3, and then he scouts. Say, okay, is Poppy 3 enough to beat this? There is a Nidalee 3 with 2 items. Probably beats this board, though this board has a ton of items, 2 fully itemized units. And then this Mundo 3 with double Warmog, 1 for all, and Stoneplate. I think first 2 players he probably would have beat to be able to keep the 3 streak. But seeing this guy with a 3-star Zyra, who could likely slam like a adaptive here, he sees that and then decides to keep rolling for the Morgana 3. So super heads up play to be able to optimize this line and preserve streak. And then gets paid off because he is playing this guy, and we'll see if he's able to pull off the win as a result. One downside is that by centering this Poppy, he's unable to hit the backline. So if he was just 1 off here, well, I guess the Mundo was solo frontline, so it doesn't matter. But if he was maybe... Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. So this is actually a way to counter the Poppy, is to, if you have a solo frontline, then the Poppy can't pop your corner carries. Which, if this comp becomes meta, having Stoneplate solo frontlines as a counter is quite solid. Though there's probably going to be anti-positioning, because then in the late game, you can just like wrap a Renekton or a Sejuani or a Galio on the sides, right? So it doesn't scale well into the late game. We can see that this very likely could have been fight diff, though the Toddy didn't slam adaptive or Shiv, which if he didn't upgrade the Morgana 3, then Toddy may have decided to do that, which likely would have been fight diff. Now you can see here that Wasian's starting to think about putting the Poppy either here or here to be able to hit the corner. And so this is the big difference I saw between like the way Setsuko Soju was playing it versus the way Wasian's playing it, is he's doing a lot more of the taking advantage of the buckler than I think Soju and Setsuko did. And one of the key things there for this to work is you want to have traditional tank items on Poppy as opposed to utility like Spark and Sunfire. Sunfire might be okay. but Spark doesn't really help as much. Sunfire at least like gives some armor and HP. So with these items, we can have Static Shiv, which is quite good. And then maybe Reforge Vest, possibly, though the Vest could make a Vow later. And so you can see every fight he's actively scouting and positioning. All right, so I'm going to slow this fight down because this should also give us a good glimpse into how this comp should work. All right, first cast coming up here should hit the Jinx, and then Morgana should be casting this next cast, I think should hit corner. Yeah. Well, Jinx is already dead, right? We're 13 seconds into the fight, and Robin's carry is already dead. He's like looking at his LP compared to Robin mid-fight. Okay, so looking for combat. So big idea here is you want ideally items and combat for this comp. If you are picking econ, it really lowers the cap, which is fine if you're going for a top 4. But if you want to try to get like a top 2 with this comp, you basically need items and combat augments. And health as wealth is kind of a hybrid because it gives healing and econ. But that's why this will work better on item encounters so that you can kind of mix and match a little bit more. But in this case, Glass Cannon gives damage amp, which the Morgana needs, and gold as well, which can help him push levels. Because to really cap out this board, you do need to have... and Big Friend is actually quite solid as well, but Climb the Ladder, not as much. But for this comp to cap out, you really need to get to level 9 to get that 6 Bastion 3 Dynamo angle going. He misses, so this is again very positioning dependent. Missed sides, but this is a Cypher player, so it doesn't really matter. Wins that handily. All right, let's go back. So this is a 50-50 to hit the Vex or the Morgana. And does chip here. We'll see how many casts. But Gunblade heals back up in 2 casts, right? And then hits again. 1. Another cast coming here. 2. So having Gunblade is quite good. And we saw in my fight against Setsuko that I beat him with this Vexotech comp, right? But look, we're at level 7. He has Vex 2, Varus 2. Okay, augments. His frontline's like not amazing, but usually you would expect like this board here to win. He has 0 gold, right? And when we get to the end of fight, like this was a super close fight. So this just really speaks to how strong this board is. You know, if we're at level 8 and 4 Dynamo, this is probably a win. So even though Vex seems like it could be a decent counter because of the healing Gunblade against the Poppy, especially if you can get Sejuani same side as the Morgana to stun and slow her down, can make a big difference. But even then, this comp is very cost effective, high power. And if this was like a death cap here and a Shiv here, this also likely would have been a win. Right now we're lacking some damage on the Morgana, which goes back to why items are so important. The Bastion, Pan plus Vest equals Bastion. That's what he's eyeing right now. He's saying, oh, he would really like that. Otherwise, probably just like a Rod or Renekton, also very strong. Lots of outs there on that carousel. Val would be quite good on this Poppy, though he might decide to reforge because he still needs to make a 3rd damage item on this Morgana. Okay, now TG. TG on Renekton could be quite good. Does decide to build that. All right, so that fight worked exactly according to plan. All right, you see here, This Poppy's gonna buckler this right here. First cast, second cast. And keep in mind too, a big reason that Poppy's casting so much faster is 4 Dynamo hands out 11 mana per 3 seconds, I believe. And so once you get to level 8 and you get this 4 Dynamo, 4 Bastion, Poppy's actually dealing a lot of damage. Like, let's see if we can go see the damage chart here. All right, like Morg 3, Poppy 3, dealing about the similar amount of damage. And then Renekton 1 with TG also dealing a lot of damage. And don't forget about your other Dynamo units, right? Unitemized Elise 2, like dealing solid damage as well. So again, going back to, you want a lot of items for this comp to work effectively. All right, so let's see how quickly this Zyra goes down. First cast Poppy. Second cast Poppy dead. And then the other team just doesn't have enough damage. So scouting really actively, making sure on same side. And the catch here is that he doesn't have Sejuani yet, right? But you put Poppy here, and this corner's screwed. You put Galio here and Sedge here, and this corner is screwed. And you just have all your bases covered, right? So this actually seems like pretty optimal setup. And you have anti-Sedge positioning here. Yeah, leave it to Wasian to come up with like some pretty good optimizations for positioning. In fact, I'm gonna update this board here to reflect Wasian's positioning. It's not gonna take forever, that is. Okay, so the way he has it is it's gonna look like this. And if you do this, then you don't even need to move your stuff around that much. Then I think the counter to this is you would put if you were playing against this, you'd probably try to put your carry like somewhere around here. I'm not even sure that that helps that much. Yeah, it's just like super hard to position around this if you're set up in the way that Wasian is set up here. And then another thing is that anti-heal is usually useful, and Morel, like Morgana spreads it really well, but it could usually be the kind of the last thing you focus on, because if you can get to Renekton also has built-in anti-heal. You can see he's burning these guys here. And yeah, I want to run through this again. This is a very traditional front to back. We've seen this a ton. Vanguard Marksman with a Marksman MF2, right? But you got on the right side here, and we'll see how quickly this Aphelios goes down. 1 cast for the Poppy. Morgana has not got to the back line yet. Poppy's about to do second cast here. And then I think Morgana just hit the... Keep an eye on Morgana. Yeah, Morgana just hit here. So 2 casts from Poppy and 1 cast from Morgana onto backline, and that Aphelios is dead. We got to level 9. We got our 6 Bastion in. And so here we see that he does set up the Galio and the Sejuani here, eating the Alawi. And this Galio should be able to stun this. I'm going to slow this down. Okay, maybe stun the Zaya instead, yeah. But Sejuani and... So this is interesting. This... Because Zeri is zooming around, the buckler won't be able to hit her as easily or consistently as a stationary backliner. And then these stuns, she kind of runs away. So I'm wondering if Zeri is actually one of the better counters to this if we start seeing this run around a lot. But you definitely need to have Gunblade on her just to prevent her from dying really quickly. But there's the mixed Zeri, and usually it's a Zeri MF. So this is interesting that this is a Zaya board, which makes sense with Jin as well, and they're holding the MF. But we do have likely a double stun, one stun here from Galio, and then the stun from Sejuani as well. And it does take this board down. So now to beat that board, we need to hit Renekton 2, Sejuani 2, and we're still missing Aurora. All right, so Vex position in the middle here. Poppy is hitting the corner. And yeah, easy win. What are we missing item-wise? Just more damage probably for Elise. Or, yeah, probably more damage here. Guardbreaker, Gunblade, Hodge. Alright, Gunblade. Gunblade is just super effective with a 6 Bastion setup because you have so much armor MR that your EHP, effective HP from that healing is extremely valuable. So just missing Aurora here and Renekton 2, Sejuani 2. He's not even like moving his positioning. Because he knows that Sejuani's stunning here, Poppy's like you could just play this stationary positioning and like you're good. So lots of scouting, kept same positioning. Okay, so Vex is actually in the corner here and gets taken out pretty quickly. Oh, not yet, but had healing. I mean, that's a level 9 Vex board. Let's see how capped it is. All right, Sedge 2, double crown guarded. I guess is missing Aurora. Zac is only Zac 1. But usually this is pretty strong. Like pretty much BIS items still taken down pretty handily. Alright, finds the Aurora. What was our Vex, our Exotech item? Yeah, Hyperfang. Like, especially if we are not itemizing this Jax here, and it's not a frontline Exo, you do not need the Jin. But if you did have a frontline Exo and you had like instead of TG here and Vest here, like you had a secondary off tank here, then it probably makes sense to keep Jin in instead of Elise and move the items over. All right, probably third damage item here. So Guardbreaker. Still not moving his front line. All right, finds Renekton 2. Gonna throw in the Kobuko. Kobuko, by the way, I used to always throw in Urgot. If you need damage, Urgot's great, but if you need more frontline, which this is a scaling stall comp, right? Looking at some stats here. He's trying to see, yeah, Morgana not that, or Morello not that good. He's trying to see what else would be good here. So Bastion Emblem, really good. Death Cap, as I mentioned, very good. Lighting Jewel, Zonia. I don't hear what he's saying, actually.
Morello's my favorite. Like, guard is not guard. I'm sure the only good ones are like Lighting, Bastion, Decap, Sonya. But other normal ones, and Morello look all good.
Yeah, it's really just decap.
They're up to lady as well.
But basically getting more frontline with the Kobuko or Zac if you have a bunch of stacks. But Kobuko, the way his kit works is he's guaranteed at 50% HP to cast and stun. So he's just like a better Sejuani because Sejuani you throw in and very likely could die. All right, final fight here. This is the guy that we lost to last time. You can see that this MF is trying to position away from the Poppy. We'll see how he decides to position this. Ends up likely not moving at all. He's just like, oh, okay. He does move here. Oh, so smart. Now he's going to cast here. We'll see how many casts it takes to knock him out. First cast coming up here. All right, second one's going to take this MF out. And then even the Morgana hit the backline. Easy win. All right. So that is Bastion Morgana Reroll. I think my big learning from watching that video is early game, you can solo frontline this Poppy. And then late game, you could just sit on this positioning right here. Right? So like, he's just basically not moving, except if the enemy carry moves to this side, like in that final fight, he moved the Poppy over. And then the enemy's basically screwed, right? Because you have Galio. Actually, I'm curious if Galio's... Okay, let's see if Galio stuns this. Galio's about to cast right now. Who does he stun? Couldn't tell. Right, Galio's about to cast right here. Oh, maybe he... Okay, yeah, right here. Galio stuns this Zeri. And then on top of that, the Sejuani also is stunning. Like, it's just insane. The amount of CC... Okay, the Sejuani died first, but... Like, the setup on this side... If by default, they put the enemy carry over here, then this snipes them down. And then if they try to sneak over here, you swap the Poppy and the Morgana, and then you have massive chain CC damage here. So cool. This comp seems like there's a lot of nuance to it. Again, super item hungry. He prioritized items over the investment strategy route. But yeah, it's seeing a lot of play at the top levels, and I hope you learned something from this video. I definitely know I did, and this is something I'm trying to do more of, is not just look at like TFT Academy or a tweet, but like really getting into detail on how to play a comp better by VoD reviewing the top players. With that said, I would love to hear your thoughts, questions, feedback in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.